I realized there's nothing that a walk can't fix. A tiny walk, a little stroll outside.
Hello and welcome. My name is Myriam Catrin. I'm a texture artist in visual effects. Welcome to my podcast. Let's be honest, a life and a career as a working artist can be very fulfilling, but it's not for the faint of heart. It's filled with challenges and obstacles, and the path forward is not always clear or simple. On this podcast, we discuss all of this openly and honestly with experienced artists who have already walked that road. That's why I call it the naked texture artist. There are many podcasts that focus on and celebrate all the big achievements in visual effects and animation. But my career as a texture artist has not been one unending victory lap. So personally, I'm more interested in learning how my fellow artists handle the hard things, when things don't work, when things break, or when we're expected to produce the impossible. All of that stuff that takes place behind the curtain. So I invite you to join me on this journey. Hopefully together we can learn from the artists who went before us, save ourselves some scars and some tears, and increase our joy as working artists. Welcome to the Naked Texture Artist. It's been a while. Perhaps it's time for a personal update. Well, as you know, eventually the film strikes got to me too. For a moment, I managed to step sideways. It's the kind of thing you do to survive. Had a gig for a company that produces digital collectibles. Still using my texturing skills from film work and picking up a few new skills here and there from the real-time world. But that's over too. So back to the dry desert post the film strikes. These strikes, these times we're living through, I think my friends know me as a very optimistic person. My mother describes me as a cork. You can hold a cork underwater, sure, but it'll bop back up to the surface on its own as soon as that negative outside pressure is removed. I suppose that is me. But even I can't help it. I'm getting a bit tired of this situation. You know, being unemployed as an artist, it's just so draining, mentally and emotionally. We are already so busy tearing ourselves down with hypercriticism, self-doubts, dismissing or trivializing our achievements, all that imposter syndrome stuff. But unemployed? It's like you removed the very last bulwark of defense against the darkness and it just all comes flooding in over you. Unhindered, unchecked, unchallenged, unrelenting. Actually, how can we make this situation worse? How about, as you leave your last employer, you don't get your final paycheck? Now, in addition to all the mental and emotional defects we have as artists, all those negative ways our brains and hearts are wired, why don't we dump all the financial anxieties and worries of a month's worth of bills and expenses and other responsibilities on top of that? Hey, just throw it into the mix. Amazing. Oh, your landlord wants to increase your rent? Of course he does. Perfect time for it. As we're doom scrolling all the green circles on LinkedIn, I do realize there are people who have it far worse than that. Okay, so that's enough of my complaining. I'm getting tired of listening to this. So where are we? Yes, some studios have started cautiously hiring senior staff again. Yes, the strikes are officially over. But actually another strike is looming on the horizon. If that comes to pass, what will be the cost to our industry this time? Add to that the general economic downturn caused by the pandemic and further compounded by knock-on effects of Russia's war in Ukraine. money rapidly moving from big screens to small screens in general, as well as what effect AI-based tools will have on our industry in the near future. This is all reflected in the fact that a lot of my friends are still with green circles on LinkedIn. My mentees are struggling to find their first gigs, helping them break into the industry. No, as a whole, I don't feel particularly great about our industry and our work as artists right now. This is, of course, why I made the podcast. So other artists could find solace in the experiences of more experienced artists. For me, there is none better than Myriam Catrin, Miss Smoke, the Dragon Lady herself. Her takes on our work, both as artists in visual effects and our journey as artists in general, it just has a wonderfully centering effect on me. Thank goodness, I still have a few hours of tape left from my interview with her. Actually, that's a crying shame. It'll do no good sitting on my hard drive. Better get her wisdom out there in the world where it can do good for others. So, let me step out of the way and press play on tape. In the beginning, when you were struggling with the tools and you were thinking, oh, maybe I'm not smart enough for this and all of this.
Not only the tools, it's like the vision,
Yeah.
the everything. It was like, it was horrible.
If you could go back and talk to that Myriam back then,
Yeah.
what would you tell her?
I will tell her the same thing that Jean Bolte told me.
Jean Bolte. Jean Bolte. Yes, for the observant listener, we have covered her briefly before on other Myriam episodes. But in this context, she's simply too important to pass over. Because she's texturing royalty. If we had a Mount Rushmore for texture artists, she'd probably be the first face to be carved there. So I'm happy to go back over this again. Of course, the work we do today was 100,000,000,000% started by Steve Williams, the irascible innovator also known as Spaz, as he came up with brand new ways of doing things on James Cameron's The Abyss, Terminator 2, and of course, Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park. Steve's buddy down in the pit at ILM, Mark DePay, should of course also be mentioned. But as I understand it, how we think of creating a visual effects asset, that was basically invented by Steve Williams on Jurassic Park. Who was then the first texture artist of all time? I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty sure that Jean Bolte was one of the very, very first, if not the first. And since those fateful days, her legacy continues to be an enduring one. When I was at ILM, she was only mentioned with admiration. If visual effects was a high school, Jean Bolte would be that cool, popular girl everybody wanted to be friends with. No doubt about it. Sadly, I never had a chance to work with her. She retired while I was at ILM. Man, you should have seen the email thread of well-wishers on that retirement email. The absolute who's who of ILM top brass and visual effects OGs and pioneers were just tripping over themselves with glowing praise for her work, her career, and her friendship. In case you haven't figured that out yet, I am insanely jealous that Myriam got to work with her. So, yeah, Jean Bolte, Queen of Texturing.
I will tell her the same thing that Jean Bolte told me. It's like you have to take the time to take a deep breath, go out, go to smoke a cigarette, walk a little bit, and come back with a fresh mind. And that's how you reset your brain, basically.
Okay.
And you see, yeah.
Of course, you're completely correct. But let me put that in a work situation.
Yeah.
What if you got the acid? You're briefed on the acid at 10 in the morning, and you didn't dare to take lunch because you're panicking.
Yeah.
And you have dailies at 3 o'clock where you need to show a first pass.
You describe the work at Weta. You work at Weta?
No. This is my first day at Frame Store.
Your first day at Frame. Oh my god.
So then what do you do then? There's no time to smoke cigarettes and walk around the block.
No, you don't have time. No, for sure. No, you need. I have another trick actually.
Okay.
It's not a trick that works for everybody. I don't know, but I work better when I don't think.
Okay.
When I don't overthink.
Yeah.
I work better when when you are in meditation, when you are in the zone, when you don't think what we are doing. You are in another place.
You're more intuitive instead of logical thinking.
Exactly. When I'm not in my head, it's really important not to be in my head. So what I do is I always have like a YouTube stuff on my phone or whatever, and I listen or watch while I'm working, like podcast about like a critique of movies but funny, gossip, whatever, like whatever that entertains this part of my brain that is like looking at something, and it let me work. Basically, I'm never 100% focused on what I'm doing.
I do that as well. That distraction trick, where it helps you to get into that unconscious zone where you are just the work is just taking place. You don't even look at it.
I try for a long time. I've got music, of course, like everybody else, but it was not enough distracting. I needed to hear. I don't even hear the thing at the end.
No.
I just hear voice, like speaking, blah, 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 and I have a tiny look. I can watch movies or what, something that entertain this part of my brain that need to let me alone. So I let my brain watch something while I'm doing something else.
It's an interesting idea because we do need our brain for some things, and then at other times we really need the brain gets in the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of time where I need the silence, and I don't need to focus really. Sometimes in the day, but most of the time when I have to do the ground leg work basically.
How?
I need entertainment. I need to have something that keep me going without asking myself too much question. I don't know if it makes sense, but it's like, it look like that I watch bullshit all day long at work.
Yeah.
But it's not the case. You don't watch it. You don't watch it. It just it put me in a set of mind, basically.
Yeah, no, I do exactly the same thing. A YouTube video or a podcast, sometimes music. Music I save for other things, but yeah.
Exactly. Music for me, it's other things. It's maybe drawing or writing or something that I need some rhythm, some inspiration. But for texture work, especially when I need to hit I will put whatever, really whatever.
One thing that's always been a big problem for me, and I think probably for most artists, when you've been working on an asset for a long time, and in the end you can't see it. You can't see anything. It's like sometimes I've turned in things for dailies, and then when you're sitting in the dark with your supervisor next to you, you see like, I submitted this. This is terrible. Take it away, please. Let me go back and fix it.
Exactly. Oh my God, what did I do? Seriously.
Do you have any tricks for that, to sort of to see things after you've been looking at them for so long that you can't see anything anymore? Do you have any? Have you learned anything that can help you, or?
So I'm breaking completely my character.
Sorry.
I'm breaking completely my. But that's the thing, is that I'm somebody who need to focus a lot, and I need to do breaks a lot. So I go, because we are lucky, we are in Weta. It's easier like we have a good surrounding. Basically, there is a little garden and everything is this. So I do the tour of the building. But I did that in Flamstore too when they were in the Muse. I have a walk. I have really a walk. That's the only way that I need to
take your eyes off the screen. You need that completely.
Get away from the computer.
Yeah.
That's my only thing. And also, it's a good thing to, cut living at night, like leave a part for doing the morning after. Because when you come back with the morning after, you have new eyes completely.
This is what Ernest Hemingway said about writing.
Yeah.
He had this thing, he said, leave some water in the well for the next day.
Exactly.
So something to get you started the next day, basically.
Yes, that completely. I didn't know, but it's exactly what I try to do. So in the case what you say, like you arrive at 10 and you have to give something for 3. Well, that's what. In the same time, you're like, well, man, you have 5 hours of work. What did you expect?
Yeah.
At what point? But when it's a long, like, and everything like this, I try to organize my day in my my schedule to basically let something like start a new stage of texture the morning after, because I have a better vision and I see my assets with objectivity.
What kind of stage? What would those stages be that you break it down into?
I try to do the color first. I always start by the color because the color is the one that it motivates me to do the color.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
Well, that's the fun part, and I try to do everything like basically in one day or half a day. First the color, then the displacement, this fine, this broad, this mid eventually, and the specular, and all the layers are after.
Okay.
And I try to do the same, the one channel color in one day or less than one day, all displacement in the other day, and specular and everything the day after. To keep, like fresh eye. I look at it. This color, yeah.
In those moments, some brief moments, whether it's because you've been away from your desk or because you invite somebody else over to look at your screen and they're pointing out some things to you, or you're sitting there in the darkness in the dailies room, I try to make sure that in those moments of clarity, where your eyes are opened all of a sudden and you can see it again for a brief second, I write down as many details as possible, so that, because I know that moment will pass and it'll be short.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be very short, so I need to have as long a list of things to fix with me from that sort of future land. And then when I come back to my own time zone, I can look at them and I'm like, okay, this I'll work on,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I do exactly the same thing. But I need like the break. I need to not being in front of my computer, watching something else, outside, or like being outside, and think about. That's where it's like the shower moment, Your best idea, the shower. Well, that's the same thing. That's true. That's where I'm like, I should have done that. Or I could do that. And that's where I restart the computer, basically. I restart the...
Isn't it amazing how walking, the activity of walking, has such a great influence on our thinking?
Completely. I'm a great believer in walk, because walk somehow... it's my father who explained to me that walking was relaxing the sympathetic system. So basically, walking is like releasing like endorphins or some endomorphins. I don't like, but it relaxes the sympathetic system.
I believe back in was it Socrates? I think it was the Greek philosopher. They had this type of learning. I think they called them flaneur or something like that, where they were learning. The class was basically Socrates was walking around the city and pointing out things, and the pupils were walking around with him, and that was a part of it, you know.
Yeah, completely. I mean, that's. I tell you, like I do a little walk, and not even a big one or whatever, just a little walk. But you have you need to I don't know, like take some air, like that, or maybe because the body starts to relax, you start to think a little clearer. And the fact that we all know, like the hypnotic state of being in front of a computer for so many hours is not really good for your
No,
mood.
I do think we are somehow attracted to looking at screens. If there's a screen in the room, our eyes will go to it, but it kills something in our creativity, you know?
Yes. No, completely. That's it's not it's yeah, I mean, it's really like I can go to really dark place when I work for a long time, like when I'm on a computer for too long, basically. It's really, I know it's like I can go to my head really, really, really easily. If, it depends if you are in good or bad mood, basically, wake up, blah, blah. And there is nothing that, like, there's nothing that a walk can't fix. I realize. A tiny walk, a little stroll outside, just breathe.
Except if the production coordinator comes by your desk and wonders why isn't she working?
They probably ask themselves like that a lot, but the fact is that that's my way of being efficient.
Yeah. Then you come back and you just tell them, hey, I did Smaug, so shut up.
No, even it's not. I don't want to, like. It's just I know that it's one of my strengths. I'm really efficient in my way of working.
Okay.
But what makes me efficient is because I can think fast because I do this kind of break. Okay, I'm not saying you take a break every hour or whatever, but every 2 or 3 hours, just have a stroll, and just, and if they don't understand that.
When are you the most excited about a project or an asset? Is it in the beginning or is it in the end?
At the beginning.
Beginnings are great, aren't they?
Yeah.
You imagine all the great stuff that's going to happen.
Yes.
And then half a year later, you hate it.
You're like, we're still here. We're still doing it.
How do you find the motivation to finish your work then? Because in the beginning, your motivation is not a problem. It takes care of itself. It's there by itself. Towards the end, you need to supply it. You need to, as a professional, you need to somehow make yourself motivated.
Don't you think that seeing your asset in renders, in shots, and everything like this is actually a good motivation?
Yes, you're right.
Because me,
I love it.
Exactly. That's awesome. Do you really, like, we still are not tired of that. I find that, I mean, each time I did a shot with, like, even when I didn't work on it, other creatures or stuff, I'm like,
it's magic. It really is.
Yes. And it's still a motivation.
Sometimes you can see something in a render, and just because a lighter and a compositor has been working on it, you forget. You did it yourself, but you're still sort of thinking, is this real or not real? Or
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a good surprise. That's it. Like the famous good surprise, you're like, awesome, I love it and everything. And that's what keeps me going, basically. It's like this surprise of seeing shots and, renders or whatever. And you're like, oh, I love that detail. And that make me go on.
Do you still watch your film in the cinema?
Oh, yes, because it's important. I need to still keep the connection with why I wanted to do that job.
Okay. Well, you did it exactly that way. The interest in the film, going to cinema school, all of these things.
Yeah. No. Even if cinema school, it was really not for me.
Are you still in contact with your teachers from back then?
No. Sometimes, yes. They ask if we can do a meeting, of old student, like previous student. But I'm in New Zealand and they're none, so yeah, it's always complicated. But yeah.
You were talking about before that at ILM you had the Weta mindset of speed, speed, speed. You need to be quick. You need to. How do you achieve speed in your work? How do you speed up your work? Do you have any things that stops you from wasting time on unimportant things, or because with speed we buy time for quality, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I hate that. No. um, that's a really good question. How I do that, by the way? I don't know.
That's how
I know that
we can come back to it.
my main goal is quality.
Yeah.
I don't care about, but my main goal is quality from distance and from close up. My main goal is that graphically, I work first from a distance, so I can see my asset in different angle from imagining in a shot it will be that far, and I want to recognize pattern, in that, like, because it gives you more dynamism. So I work in a broad way first, and I get closer and closer and closer, and that's I don't know. I guess with the experience, tell me if I'm wrong.
Hey,
But
I don't have the answers. That's why I'm asking you.
I guess that the great thing of having experience is that you think faster on the spot.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main thing, is that you think fast on the spot. You take decision faster. It's not the fact that you do it, it's that the taking decision.
Yeah.
Taking like a stand, like saying like, well, I will do it like this. When you don't have our concept precise, which is a lot of times the case, basically.
Also at Weta, I always thought Weta was this magical dreamland where you had beautiful concept art and reference photos for everything, and
you have reference photos for everything and blah blah blah. But I always fell a little bit short in terms of a precision sometimes. And it's that's stupid, but I think it's a texture. You need to have the mind of a texture artist to do the reference, to provide the reference.
Oh yes. Sometimes you get reference images where you're thinking, who thought this was a good idea?
With 3 pixels, and you have like with the watermark in the fucking middle, that you are, what is supposed to be?
I've been on shows where people were going out for reference for photo shoots, and I write them a list of saying, please make sure that these things are in the photos, and you come home and it's unusable.
Exactly. I think that you have to have like this kind of fucked up mind that we've got to think about taking photo from under and top and on the side and like close up and everything like this. Like I need that, I need texture, so I need that kind of stuff. But that's it's also very very analytic as reference, which I found sometimes really annoying, because you need to have first a synthetic vision of your asset, like what it look like from a distance, instead of going straight to the detail and kind of droning your asset under details. You know what I mean?
That's an interesting thought. I like that. I think I will try this. I have always, I don't know, because I'm sort of divided on this.
Yeah.
Should you take a little corner of your asset and do like a full test of everything, all the details, everything, one little part, and then you take all of this and you put it everywhere else on the asset? Or should you, as you say, step back, do the big strokes first, the big details, the patterns, all of this, and then work closer and closer and closer? But by doing that, don't you have to redo some of the things you've already done?
Yeah.
And so you waste a little time on that, because you have
No.
to, you're replacing the big strokes with the medium strokes, and you're replacing the medium details with the small details, and and so you're redoing the details over and over. No.
Let me explain why.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it's just I'm a big believer that before working on details are great for close-up and everything, and to have this belief stuff. But that's the layer that you put, the patina that you put on your painting at the end. You know what I mean? Like you did this beautiful painting and you do this patina to blend everything together. That's how I see details.
Okay.
But first, you have to work on the silhouette of your asset. The silhouette, literally. To think think broad things and how I want it to look like as a silhouette. So I have this model coming from model is awesome and everything. But if I want a little bit spike here or whatever, I will start to work on my color, and I will work on not extract like my broad displacement to make sure that I have a silhouette that work for me with a broad color, patterns, direction, something that makes the asset like look elegant, graphically pleasant, first.
Okay. I wanted to ask you if you had a texturing philosophy. Maybe this is part of your philosophy.
That's part of that's absolutely that's the way that I work. I need to, at first, my philosophy is like, you have to do your homework. You have to go and take the risk to because you are not wasting time. You feel like that it takes a lot of time, but you are not wasting time. And do your shopping of, so I have this as reference. I want to go to that and to take that kind of reference. So I take that. And after, I shop for my different tile of that I did for different concrete, whatever, even for a creature, tiles. And after mask for all the brush strokes, maybe scratch on it. So I take the time, really take the time to actually put together my materials. That is reference and the things that I will maybe use to paint through or whatever.
So you've been for quite a few years at Weta now.
Yeah.
I was thinking, you've also tried smaller gigs at other studios.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you like best, staying with one studio or changing environment often? And there must be pros and cons. There must be strengths and weaknesses with both sides.
I prefer to change.
Yeah.
I prefer to work on smaller gigs and on different companies.
So why haven't you?
Oh, but there is no other company in Weta. There is no other company in New Zealand. So that's why.
You've decided to live in New Zealand? Is that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. We are permanent resident.
Is it that nice? I mean, I've never been, but.
Oh yeah, it's nice. No, it's really nice. New Zealand is really, really, really nice. It's a beautiful country. I'm a countryside girl. I hate big cities.
What part of France are you from?
I'm from a I'm from a tiny village next to Le Mans.
Okay.
24 hours of Le Mans, like the circuit,
Yeah,
the speed, the race speed.
of course I know the race, but
Yeah.
I don't know where in France Le Mans is.
So you have Brittany, and just under you have Les Pays de la Loire, the Valley of the King. Like this big area, and Le Mans is there. It's on the west, just under Brittany.
So you would be a little bit north of Lyon, or?
Oh no! Lyon is on east.
The other side. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. No. So no, I should sync the screen.
No. It's fine. It's fine. But France is such a big country. I've been to Alsace many times. I've been, of course, Paris and Provence as well many times. But there's so many other places in France I've never been to.
Yeah. No, I was lucky because I really grew up in a part of France which is very historic, because you have all the castle, Chambord, Chambourcy, Chenonceau, Blois, Loches, all the castles, all of them. So it's like that's why they call it the Valley of the King. Basically, you have the river La Loire, and around La Loire you have all these areas where it's history. It's beautiful and everything like this. You have it's beautiful here. And Le Mans, it's nice because you are really in part of France where you have it's real countryside. Small farm with lot of forest, and you have a little bit of field, small field between lot of forests. So it's I grew up in a very, very green and very wild area of France.
This sounds like my village. My village was a farming village next to a forest. So you had the fields and you had the forest.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And you grew up with animals,
Yeah, no, but I liked it. It has taught me to appreciate countryside,
Oh, good. I need it. I realized it after. I lived for a long time in Paris. I hated Paris, and for all the year I was there, I hated it because it's such a big city with so many people. It's so gray. It's so gray everywhere. And I need the countryside. Here it's like I can walk 15 minutes from here and I'm on the seaside. And 5 minutes from here, we have hiking paths and you have like the birds. It's awesome. It's just.
So Myriam, we've been talking for an hour and a half.
Oh.
I still have things I'd like to ask you, but I just wanted to give you a chance. Do you need to use the toilet, get a drink, something like this?
No, my coffee gets cold.
Yeah, actually. That's what I'm thinking. It must be cold by now. Mine is finished. So.
You want to make a break?
Could I just take a 5-minute break and then be back here?
Absolutely. Please.
Okay, very good. See you in 5 minutes. Myriam will be back in a future episode. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us. We have a tiny bit of housekeeping to do on the way out. If this episode has been helpful to you, why not share the podcast with your colleagues and friends? If you'd like to support the podcast, I'd appreciate if you bought me a coffee. You can do that on Ko-fi. That is spelled ko-fi.com/The Naked Texture Artist. One word. If you have suggestions, comments, or questions, I'd love to hear them. Feel free to drop me a line on thenakedtextureartist@gmail.com. That is The Naked Texture Artist written out in all one word @gmail.com. As I mentioned, having a busy day job in visual effects means my release schedule for this podcast can be a bit irregular. So if you don't want to miss out, subscribe to The Naked Texture Artist wherever you get your podcasts. Or follow the podcast on the socials, then you'll be alerted when the next episode drops. The music in this episode was Awake by Tycho. Nick Sifoni helped put the sound together, and everything else is done by me, your host, Mark Pierre Sondergaard. Speak to you soon.